Well, here we are, another wonderful Friday, the end of another week, and another regrettable game that the Maple Leafs played. And it started, the day started with bad news about the Leafs goaltender, uh, Anthony Stolarz. What's the good news, Aaron?
Well, the good news is I don't think it can possibly get any worse at this point. It's been a rather frustrating end to the first quarter of the season for sure. There hasn't been any sign of Stolarz since November 11th. According to Berube, after that game against Boston on the 11th, he suffered an upper body injury in the first period, but was not dealing with anything serious. Considering the fact that he hasn't been on the ice since, we got an indication from the coach that they don't really have a timetable for him. Maybe tomorrow, meaning today, he would be back on the ice, but we're not 100% sure. The saving grace, no pun intended for all of that, has been that Joseph Woll is back. He was in line to make his third start in a row on Thursday against the Blue Jackets after getting a .934 save percentage in his first two starts. He's as far as we're concerned here, based on the way that Stolarz has been performing, it's not necessarily likely that we're going to miss Stolarz unless he's out long term. So that's something we of course want to keep an eye on. Hildeby is a capable backup, so I'm not overly concerned about that. And like I said, Woll has been relatively consistent and very good. He just needs a little more support up front from the boys when it comes to scoring. So,
yeah. Stolar's injury, Woll's injury, this is a trend that goes back to last year. They took turns getting hurt. And the one thing last year brought us was injuries to goaltenders. Goaltender in the crease plays really well under the pressure. This is now what Woll is going to deal with. Stolarz dealt with it earlier. Not enough success of dealing with the challenge of not having a legitimate 1A or 1B goaltender, right? So now Woll gets a chance to show what he can do when there's no 1A or 1B. Again, between the two of them, you can pick which one you think is the starting goaltender. What we do know is that the team is not helping the goaltender. Yesterday, they did something they haven't done in a while, and that is outshoot the opposition. In fact, they did a really good job of outshooting the opposition. And back to an old historical situation where they outshoot the opponent and make the goaltender look like a world-class goaltender, a star. So there's concerns here in the goaltending because they can't both stay healthy. We'll see what happens when Stolarz goes in the other direction. Right now, he's going in the direction, Aaron, things are worse today than they were yesterday. So we'll see if things work out, that they start getting a little better for the Leafs. We do know that somebody has to play better with the Leafs because as a group, they're not playing well enough to win. And they're losing games in overtime, getting a point. That's not a bad thing. But here's the problem. The team they lost a point to is ahead of them in the playoffs. You see, almost every game the Leafs play now is against a team that's ahead of them. And every time they don't beat that team, clean especially, they don't get to make up ground. And this is where the Leafs were. This was my concern at the beginning of the season, is falling behind and then playing catch up. Now, it's not impossible, but we can only say this so many times after losses.
No, it's very true. At a certain point, you're going to run out of runway. And as it currently stands, there's more than one person that really needs to step up right now. The unfortunate problem is, of those people that do need to step up, I think there are 3 of them that are injured. So, they obviously they can't be on the ice right now to step up their performance in the way that they need to because they're hurt. Like, for example, Austin Matthews, 9 goals in 17 games is equal to what Nylander had, but you gotta search a lot of game video before you can find Austin Matthews putting this team on his back and being dominant. You know, Nylander and Tavares each has 17 points at 5-on-5, tied for second in the NHL. Matthews only has 9 points so far this season. So that's a definite thing that he'll need to step up from. Granted, he is dealing with a lower body injury, so there's that. Stolarz needs to play better as well when he's healthy. Again, he's currently on IR, so there's really not a lot that he can do about that to step up right now. But last season he had a .926 save percentage. He's got to try to get back to that somehow. Nicholas Roy was playing decently. He's another player that needs to get to step up. But as Berube indicated a couple games ago, he was coughing up blood, so he's on the IR. And again, there's no way for him to play his way out of that currently. The other people we're looking at are Brandon Carlo, again injured, and Dakota Joshua. Now, Joshua has been leading the Leafs. He has had 67 hits so far. He's a good presence on the forecheck when it comes to that sort of thing. He's big. He's tough. He's got an average salary of $3.25 million. That's going to take him through 2027-28. But he needs to get his feet under him quickly before the franchise gets disenfranchised with the way that he's been performing. Brandon Carlo at 6'5", 227 is he needs to be a little more physical. He's only recorded 12 hits in the first 18 games this season. With his size, he should be a lot more effective. So once he returns from injury, we'd have to see if he can step up his game as well. The one person that I haven't mentioned that's also an injured reserve is Chris Tanev. He's been doing everything the Leafs have asked of him and more. The fact that he's dealing with an upper body injury again is a bit of an issue, but he's not one of those that I would put on the list as needing to step up.
I'm afraid, and there's two things about Austin Matthews that aren't positive lessons that we've learned from him. His inability to stay healthy for a prolonged period. And we're learning this year that he is not a guy who creates offense. He's a finisher. And unfortunately, he apparently needs a 100-point man beside him to be effective. And there aren't many of those around for him to hop on. Unfortunately, I lay awake at night thinking to myself, I'm going, I love Aaron and I love all these Leaf fans whom I think very highly of, and I think they deserve better. The unfortunate thing is the Leafs cannot afford to be this bad, because if they are this bad, the organization is going to take a heavy, heavy hit, a very heavy hit. And here's why. My disappointment is in the players that are the stars that have been the stars on this team. And I throw Marner in that mix as well, where this team has thrown away the future, thrown it away. We all know, I've said this before. I've tried ringing a bell, trying to get people's attention, but it seems the manager and the Maple Leafs didn't figure it out, and they're gonna meet it. Good for Dubas, he's not here. Good for Shanahan, he's not here. But here's the problem: if the Leafs finish as a lottery pick, I'm sorry, now all of a sudden I drew a blank on the team that has the pick. They will lose that first round pick. If not, they have to turn over next year's without the ability to do what they can do this year, and that is use it. So if the Leafs go on a run of not making the playoffs and being a lottery team, there's actually a possibility at this point for this team to be a lottery pick in the next couple of years, win the lottery. At least their pick will win the lottery, but it won't come to Toronto. My point here, Aaron, is that the Leaf organization, MLSE, the big company, put people in charge who put a lot of faith in Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, and you can say even Morgan Riley, put a lot of faith in those guys and said, we're going to throw away some of the future every year so that you get a chance to win the cup. Return that they got that the organization got from those players was insufficient. And that's why I'm getting on the train that says if Matthews has any value, it's time to talk to him about moving on. This Leaf team has no opportunity to build a franchise the way it normally needs to be built, the way it's built by every team every year. The Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators, talking about two teams that Leaf fans would know fairly well, they would not be the team of hope today if it wasn't for the draft picks they've had, the young players. Well, that ain't there for the Leafs. The Leafs don't got that. So what I'm saying is they can't make the same mistake they made with Marner. They kept him too long. They got nothing for him. Roy is not that good a player. He's not that good a player to be replacing a 100-point guy. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying here, I'm going to say this for the first time, and it's going to be the thing I'm going to be thumping every day. It's time to reset this team. If in December they're not in a playoff position, they need to sell right to the bone, because the guys that make up this team were given an opportunity to win a championship. The organization did its best by bringing in players to augment their lack. They're lacking whatever it is, ability or something, whatever you want to call it. Well, it didn't work out, and I think they got to flush this team. If it looks like it's not going to make the playoffs, time to flush this team and get whatever draft choices they can get this year, and somehow not regret next year when they lose their number one pick. And unfortunately, the reality is this team is not playing like a team that can win. They play like a team that finds ways to lose. That's what we've seen. And if that continues, they got to bite the bullet and go, you know what? This group ain't working. Let's get what we can. Let's move on. And I'm going right to the bone. I'm talking, I might keep Tavares, and that's it. That's it. That's it.
I was going to say that was going to be my next question, because Austin Matthews and William Nylander both have no movement clauses.
I don't care about the no movement clause.
Just hear me out. And yeah. I think it's hilarious that the no movement clause is designated on puckpedia.com as a boat anchor, because that's exactly what it is. Jake McCabe at 4.5, Morgan Riley at 7.5. Those guys
don't worry me, Aaron. Yeah. Those aren't the guys that worry me.
It's the guys up front, the guys that are making 10 plus.
Guys, it's not the money. Let me make this clear. It's not the money. It's the players who are given an opportunity to win a championship and literally pissed it away. Okay? Literally and figuratively. Austin Matthews pissed away championships. Anybody who says I'm being hard on him, let me ask you something, folks. Did the Leafs do everything they could to make that guy a champ? Did they do everything they could to make that guy a champ? Yes. Did they do everything they could to make Marner a champ? Yes, they did. Did they do everything they could to make Nylander a champ? Yes, they did. Do you really want to run that again? Is that what you like? That's my whole point, is you put those guys in that same position again, it ain't going to happen. History will repeat itself. My point is, this is the last chance that those Leafs have to be the leaders on this team to take them to the promised land. If they're falling short and they're incapable of doing it, they can blame the team, but what they should do is they should blame the team on the way out the door. So as far as I'm concerned, it's time to fish or cut bait. And I just don't have faith in Matthews. I don't have faith in Nylander. I don't have faith in Morgan Riley. And the reason I don't have faith, the only one I give forgiveness to is Tavares. The only reason I give it to him is because he looks like he cares. Because he looks like he cares. That's the problem. He looks like he cares. Austin Matthews looks like he's going to work and looking at his clock. Is it 5 o'clock yet? Because I got to go, right? Quitting time's 5. No, I see no investment. I see no effort. I see no caring. I see no challenging the opposition. I see no pulse. And by pulse, I'm not talking about putting the guy down. I'm talking about a pulse, a hockey pulse, like we see out of champions who don't want to lose and do everything they can not to lose. This team accepts losses. That's my frustration with this team. And that's why I think it's time for them to, I'm telling you, December rolls around. If the Leafs are heading down the road, it's going to take a turnaround immediately into the new year for them to salvage this season. And if that's the case, I hope they do. I hope, Aaron, you understand. I'm all for you being happy, but I'm also here to protect you. In my mind, I'm saying these people need to know what's going on, because they can't be too invested in this organization if this is what they're feeding them.
Yeah, no, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I mean, as it currently stands, we're 3 points out of a wild card spot. You know, we'd be tied. 3 points will get us tied with Pittsburgh, Washington, Columbus, and Boston for a wild card spot.
You remember those days, right, Aaron? You remember those days when the Leafs were fighting for a playoff spot and they had to go over 6 teams? It was only 3 points, but they had to hope 6 other teams played bad enough for them to make up those 3 points. That's the point. That's the point.
I remember when 16 out of 21 teams used to make it into the playoffs, and the Leafs used to finish 17th or 18th. So
and beat the first overall team. Yeah. I remember those days too. The Islanders, Pittsburgh, all those teams, Los Angeles, they were all favored. You know, they were going to kill the Leafs, and the Leafs just survived. But still, it didn't get them a cup, Aaron. It got them another round, right? So, you know, this team is the team that Kyle Dubas and Shanahan gave us. I don't blame Treliving. I don't blame the coach. They're dealing with the hand they've been dealt. Right. And that's all there is to it. And anybody who thinks like a coaching change would be something tantamount to saying, here's the list of things we need to do if this team doesn't square away. Okay, let's get rid of the coach. Now what do we do? Get rid of the GM. Okay, get rid of the GM. Okay, now what do we do? Let's skip those 2 steps and go right to the players is what I'm saying. Because if this is the way they're going to play all year, Leaf fans deserve better. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I am infuriated and pissed at the way that this organization allowed itself to be taken down the garden path.
No, and you know, like I said, not necessarily that I disagree with you at all. I don't. There's a lot that they could have done. There are a lot of guys that were expected to step up that so far haven't. You know, the continued Leafs malaise when it comes to the playoffs is, I think, I think it's wonderful that we've made the playoffs 9 years in a row. But the fact that we haven't got past the second round at all, and the fact that we've only made it past the first round twice is of genuine concern.
And a couple of those years, you had 2 of the 4 highest paid players in the league.
Yep.
That is my rallying cry. You want to be the highest paid player in the league? You want a salary? Well, friggin' earn it. And the Leafs have not done it. And the only one who's earned their salary right now is John Tavares at the salary that he's making now.
Yeah, and dollar for value, he's the best player that we've got. Points per game, he's one of the best players that we've ever had.
And effort. I really,
100%.
I'm emphasizing that because it means so much to me when I watch sports. It's effort that wins games, sometimes more than talent.
For sure.
And talent, something they had plenty of, and now it's shrinking. And we're beginning to see that Austin Matthews maybe isn't the superstar everyone thought he was, and that's the reality of what we're looking at here.
The problem is we've lionized him for so long. The fact that he's only human is a huge letdown.
Oh, shoot. Good point, Aaron. So it's our fault for treating him so lovely, so wonderful, treating him like a superstar, and we expected him to be a superstar.
No, I think we expected him to be serviceable. He expected himself to be a superstar by requesting that money.
You 100% made the point, and that has been the malaise with the Toronto Maple Leafs going back a long time, where because they were the best Maple Leaf, they must be the best Maple Leaf, or they must be the best player, right? You know, here in Toronto, we're very accustomed to making players who are really not that good superstars because they're good in Toronto. And when you compare them, the proof the proof is in the pudding, and here's the pudding. You finally bring in some guys that have a lot of talent. You bring Austin Matthews in, you bring Mitch Marner in. And what happens? You bring them in, really solid star players who they're in your organization, they're playing like superstars. They're getting the points that you expect from superstars. What happens immediately? In a matter of a few short years, they're breaking records that Leaf players have never accomplished. What does that speak to? How low the bar was before they got here. I've maintained that from the beginning. And this is the fool's gold. The fool's gold is these guys are finally playing like regular superstars on a team that doesn't know what it's like to have any.
Ouch, but also fair.
There have been the best players the Leafs have had after the Stanley Cup. Darryl Sittler, Lanny McDonald, Boreas Salming, Matt Sundin. These are all the best players the Leafs have had over the past 20 some odd years, right? Doug Gilmour came here for breakfast, more than a cup of coffee, but breakfast. He came for breakfast. He didn't have lunch and dinner here. He already had breakfast and lunch, and then he came here for dinner. Those are great players. But in the pantheon of superstars and of champions, Gilmour pretty much and McDonald are the only ones that have won championships, and none of them have done it here.
And that's, I think, the biggest problem. We pump these guys' tires to such an extent that we're convinced that they are the be-all and end-all when it comes to hockey players. But you put them on any other team and they'd be pedestrian.
So what I'm trying to say right now is, and I want to be making this clear, I am trying to manage Leaf fan expectations. I'm not trying to be mean to Leaf fans. I'm even not trying to be mean to the Leaf organization. But it may be time to start saying to ourselves that, maybe thinking this team can be a champion, that ship has sailed. Can we hope this is going to be the team that we loved for many, many years? That's what this team's going to be. It's going to be the team that Leaf fans have loved for decades. A team, the lovable loser, the Chicago Cubs of the National Hockey League. They're going to go back to that. And that has its value, right? But let's not kid each other. And let's not bullshit. Like, forget the bullshit. This team is not championship caliber. This team, the high bar for this team and is making the playoffs. So if you're a Leaf fan and you're rooting for this team, keep in mind, making the playoffs would be a real good thing if this team did it. Enjoy they make the playoffs. Enjoy the experience of making the playoffs. But it's time to stop being disappointed if they lose in the first round. It's over. Forget until I'm speaking in a way of reflective of the way they're playing and the bad luck they've had with injuries. I'm the first person to be admitted I'm wrong if they can do something different. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if healthy they'd be much. I don't know if they're going to be any different if they're healthy. I really don't, Aaron.
I think here's the thing that Leafs fans have to recognize. We'd like to think that we're driving a Mercedes or a McLaren, just to make an F1 analogy here.
Go ahead.
But the fact of the matter is, we're more Racing Bulls or Aston Martin than we are Mercedes or McLaren. We're not the elite of the elite. We're mid-pack. We are thoroughly, solidly mid-pack.
And you know what's back here in the back of my head besides an empty space? There's a little space there in the back of my head that I'm going like this. This is my motivation. So for those of you that are watching this, honestly, this is my motivation. I really am trying to manage expectations, because the last thing I want to see is another Maple Leaf fan throw a $300-$400 hockey jersey on the ice, because I don't want to see you lose your investment, guys. Guys and gals, you love your Leafs. They're a great organization. It is, the Maple Leaf represents something that I adore, admire, and am loyal to, right? And the Maple Leaf is what our country uses as its moniker, as its representation. Whenever you see the Maple Leaf, I think of Canada. When I think of Canada, I think of the glory that our country is. All right, I know there's some people who say, well, Frank, what are you talking about? But can we keep that other shit on the side for now and just have it be the fact that I love this country. I love the Maple Leaf. When Canada plays in Milan, you know who I'm going to be rooting for. I know who you're going to be rooting for. And that's what we're going to where we're going to be relegated to now. It isn't going to be celebrating the possibility of the local Maple Leaf getting to the promised land. It's going to be, well, the Olympics are coming. We can enjoy that at least. And it'll be a distraction, much like the Jays were a distraction, much like it's quite possible the Raptors will be a distraction. They look really good right now. So Toronto sports fans don't, you've said it before and you're 100% right when you say this is a Maple Leaf town. Well, maybe it's time that this became Toronto again and forget the Maple Leaf and just be Toronto or Ontario or Canada. The Maple Leafs can't make this work. I feel sorry for their GM and their coach. Their hands are literally tied to failure, tied to it.
Yeah, all my sins remembered, man. That's just basically the way this works. The sins of their past continue to haunt them to this day. And by sins, I don't mean the actual, I'm talking about contracts that were signed in good faith by a rookie GM and an overbearing team president that have ended up hurting this team.
Well, looking back, I think it's fair to say I trusted judgment of people like Burke when he said, because I agreed with him 100%, when he said the math doesn't work. The math doesn't work. You spend that much money on those guys, you're not going to have the guys to make the team a champion. You're only going to have a team that can get you to the playoffs and look really good. But the guys to do the dirty work, my faith in Dubas disappeared when Hyman left, because I would have kept, and I said it, I believe on this show, I said I would keep Hyman and get rid of Marner. I said it back then, and I stick to that. And why did I say that? Because I saw a guy who was willing to do what it take to win. And I saw him willing to do it in the playoffs. I didn't see that from Marner. And that's the whole thing. And yet Marner's value was much higher than Hyman's. So when people said, well, we can't afford to pay Hyman, so we have to let him go, I'm going, you sure will be able to afford him if you get rid of Marner. And I really felt that at the time. I'm not lying about that.
Yep.
And the reason is that I admire, I guess I'm a lunch pail guy. I'm a construction guy. I'm a guy who works with my hands and lifts things, and all my life did that. And I'm not a big fan of people who aren't willing to do the work.
No, and that's fair. And that's honestly the teams that win the cup. That's what they have is a bunch of guys that are willing to put in the work every single day. So,
okay,
we are.
We've gone sideways.
Yep, 100%. I'm
going to give you back the show for you to say what you want to say, talk about what you want to talk about, and we'll start. Okay. This one here is the fact that I'm going to say this right now, and you're going to do this part. We're playing our way, say Maple Leaf players.
Yeah.
Boy, that segue really hurt.
That was a tough turn there, sir. I appreciate the fact that Brad acknowledges that even in games that the Leafs have won, they haven't necessarily won. They've only scored more goals. And it's true. Even if you have a deserve to win-o-meter, or even if you have, whatever, just because you score more goals doesn't necessarily mean you won the game. It just means you got a little more lucky. And Brad is busy saying, well, we played a pretty solid game. Our guys worked hard. We won the game, but we didn't necessarily win the game. And the Leafs are 9-3 through 21 games. So not exactly the best record, but apparently they're playing the way that they want to play, which means that as far as they're concerned, they're on the right track. I don't know if this is going to take them where they want to be, but certainly management and coaches seem to think that they're trending in the right direction, even if game results don't necessarily indicate that, which is a confusing tack to take, because if I'm a coach or a general manager, I'd rather be winning than playing the right way.
I've heard this saying that sports is results oriented. What's the root of that statement?
Well, I mean, when you really think about it, if
That
you're
was
not
being.
winning,
I mean, that's what sports is. It's about being results oriented. You can bullshit people all day if you like. You can say, well, that was a moral victory. That was one we could have won. Yes, we won it, and we almost did. We didn't quite do it, but we did have the ability to win. We were close. We were close.
I feel like Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last.
Well, listen, I got to laugh or I'm going to cry here for Leaf fans. That game last night was ridiculous. I mean, they have the same old bad habits where they outplay an opponent and somehow can't figure out what the back of the net looks like.
And it bothers me because, again, kid from Toronto came into Toronto, had a 3-point game, scored the opening goal, had an assist on the second goal, and then scored the overtime winner with under a minute left to win it in front of his parents and friends in the visiting team's. Well, not in his home barn, in our home barn. It's one of those things where it's so frustrating, because this team is. I'm going to say it. This team is better than they've been playing.
But they're not. That's my point, Aaron. I'm sorry.
No. I get it.
I'm not saying I'm right. Okay, I'm trying to make this clear. What I'm saying is I'm hearing footsteps. I don't have any solid proof that this team's not going to make the playoffs. I don't have any solid proof of that, other than my intuition after watching decades of hockey and watching decades of Maple Leafs teams. There's an aura that I feel like I'm revisiting. It's coming back. It's an aura that I've experienced before, and I feel it coming again. So in defense of the Maple Leafs, and this is a good thing for the Maple Leafs. In defense of the Maple Leafs, they have a lot of injuries. It's funny. Like, how do you make something a positive that's such a negative? Like, because it's a negative, right? Injuries. Well, that's not good. But somehow we're turning it. Some people are turning it into, well, if they had all their guys, they wouldn't be so bad.
Well, here's the thing. The fact that they have so many injuries at this point gives them a chance to evaluate their depth, not only on the players that are sitting in the press box every night, having a chance to finally get on the ice, but they also have the chance to elevate players from their farm team should they need to. Maybe get Vladislav Petka a look. Maybe get Akhtyamov a better look. We know Hildeby's decent. The only way that's going to happen, unfortunately, is if somebody in front of them
goaltenders. Those are all goaltenders.
And that's not really the issue here. I mean, realistically, what they need to do is elevate more forwards from the Marlies and maybe a couple defensemen.
They need to get rid of forwards, in my opinion. I think I'm coming to, they've got to get healthy. So they can get rid of guys and they can have more of a consistent lineup, because that's not helpful either. This constant in and out for players. It was one thing when it was one guy, when it was Robertson, right? It was okay when it was one defenseman, or two defensemen. But now it's a laundry list of players that are moving in and out. And that's really the root of the problem with the injuries. It shows when you don't have depth. You don't have guys you can put in and go, this is the guy that's going to fill that blue line spot, instead of, well, one of these 3 or 4 guys should be able to do it. That's what I mean. That's the only point I'm trying to make, is that there can't be a lack of specific backup guys that go in and we know what you're going to get. Right now, they're trying to search for stuff, and that's what's scary, is they're searching for talent. Now, we saw a young guy. They brought in a young guy in stature. He can move the puck. He can do that kind of stuff. He can, he's a little bit physical. But he's another extra defenseman that I don't know what their intention is with him and the rest of them.
Yeah.
So,
and here's the thing: he's not even that young anymore. He's actually 31 years old.
Yeah, he's not.
So it's one of those things where it's like they're desperately trying to find any body they possibly can to plug a hole.
And what's the hole they're trying to fill? The hole they're trying to fill is losses. They can tell you all this stuff about process and all that bullshit. The fact is, what they're looking for is wins. They need wins because when push comes to shove, MLSE's own stupidity bites them in their own butt. How does it do that? They put people in charge in the past that they've had faith in too much, that ran this team into the ground. Literally, they're running into the ground right now. And they're the ones that are going to pay for it because playoff money is really good money. And if you don't make the playoffs, you got to go to the board and explain to them, well, we didn't make the playoffs. Why didn't we make the playoffs? Well, it was that guy. So
yeah, and
it was that guy.
Yeah, it never works out well.
That guy. So that's going to be the fun part. That's where the pressure all comes from, Aaron. I think it comes from, if this Leaf team starts to look like they're not making the playoffs, the people on high that are in the boardroom going 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Those people are going to get nervous and get a little upset because they like going 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 11,000. The money, baby. Money talks, bullshit walks. And right now, the Leafs look like bullshit, and they got to do something. The players themselves have to pull on their bootstraps. If Austin Matthews is incapable, full circle here, if Austin Matthews isn't capable of carrying that C, if he isn't capable of carrying his contract, then it's time for him to go. That's all there is to it. Just got to stop the crap. He's got it. The team, the players have never been accountable in Toronto. It's the thing they have to learn to do, and that's MLSE, learn to make the players accountable. And the way you do that is wins matter. Winning matters. Process is cool. Sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm done with trust the process. I want you all to stack dubs.
Let's go. Need W's. W's, that's what you need. Speaking of W's, one thing that you get with the PWHL is a lot of winning hockey and a lot of really, for any of us who have followed the PWHL, the progress of that league has been amazing. The players, every year, there's an incredible improvement in the quality of play. And Aaron, I know you love this league, and I know you really enjoy watching it. And I know myself from watching it from time to time that every time I watch it, it looks better and better. It is obviously better and better. And I can't wait to see what the new season's going to bring us.
Well, here's the really good thing. In Canada, broadcast rights for all 120 games of the PWHL season are split between TSN, Sportsnet, CBC Radio-Canada, and Prime Video. CBC is going to be broadcasting 17 games on Saturday afternoons. Prime Video will be airing all 19 Tuesday night games. TSN is going to carry 54 games throughout the regular season, and Sportsnet, also returning as broadcast partner, will have 30. All 30 of Montreal Victoire's games are going to be available in French across RDS, Radio-Canada, and Prime Video. The only place that doesn't have a broadcast deal currently nationally is the States. Boston, New England Sports Network, and TV38 will be doing that. FDSN North and Fox 9 will be doing it in Minnesota. MSG Networks and WWOR My 9 will be doing it in New York. And Kong and Fox 13 in Seattle. But again, this is an exposure issue because they can't seem to lock anything down. The good news is we have 2 new expansion franchises this year. We have the Vancouver Golden Eyes and we have the Seattle Torrent to go with the Frost, Charge, Scepters, Victoire, Fleet, and Sirens. And, with the way that everything's been changing up recently, it looks to be a really interesting season. Now, ahead of this year's season, the PWHL has also opted for a 3-2-1 point system. This means that regulation wins are worth 3, overtime and shootout wins are worth 2, an overtime loss is worth 1, and a regulation loss is worth nothing. There are only 2 rule changes that are actually coming in 25-26. The league now requires each team carry 3 goalies on a roster, and there are no more coaches challenged for videos reviews. All reviews will now be initiated by the league, either via on-ice officials or the situation room. So this is going to make things a little more interesting.
So coaches can't complain?
No, I think they felt that the coaches were trying to abuse it a little too much to try to swing momentum in certain occasions, even if it was a clear-cut goal. So I think they're trying to take that factor out of it.
Do you get the feeling like when you state those rules, it's like, okay, what's the NHL doing? Okay, we're going to do the opposite.
Yeah, seriously,
we're going to do the opposite. Because the 3-2-1 points thing is something people have talked to the National Hockey League about doing for years, and it's something that hasn't gotten any traction. Now, the interesting thing here is the premise with the National Hockey League, and we're going to see it now in this league. The premise in the National Hockey League is because they do it the way they do it, the point system, the way the National Hockey League does it, which is 2-1, keeps the teams closer together, right, points wise. So it keeps them the standings closer. We're going to find out how true that is with this league.
Definitely. Right? And I'm really liking the fact that they're keeping the jailbreak rule and the no escape rule. Now, the jailbreak rule, just to recap for those of you who don't recall, on a minor penalty only, if a team scores shorthanded, their player gets to come out of the box. The other one that they have is the no escape rule, which means that if you're on the ice and your team takes a penalty, you can't leave the ice until after the first penalty kill faceoff. So your coaches can't just swap in your elite penalty killers. You got to win that faceoff, get control of the puck, and then get off the ice before your PP1 comes on.
Oh, so you have to do it on the fly.
Yeah. Which makes things more interesting for sure.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, did they not adopt, and was that what you said earlier? Maybe I just didn't understand it properly, where do they have you don't get out of the box till you serve your time?
No, they have the jailbreak rule now. So if I'm on the team that's shorthanded and we score, our player comes out of the box. So the focus is on making sure that the team with the power play scores. But if the team that's on the penalty kill scores,
punish you twice?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Here's the thing, right? If I score shorthanded, then my player comes out of the box.
No. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying they're going to punish a team for screwing up on the power play.
Yeah.
After they punish themselves by letting the other team score.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand with that kind of thinking. Why are they not doing what some have talked about? I forget where it is. I could have swore there was a league that was doing the old-fashioned NHL rules back going to the 50s. I think it was the 50s or the 60s, where when you got a penalty, you didn't get out till the 2 minutes were up.
Yeah, no, they did that back in the
50s. They got rid of that because Montreal was destroying every team. They were getting 3 and 4 power play goals, and they said, this isn't working the way we would like it to work, and they changed it. Yeah, no, I'm really impressed with the PWHL. Listen, they're trying stuff. This is the same argument people have with the Canadian Football League changing rules, and the thing about changing rules, whether you agree with them or not, there has to be an admission that they're trying to do something. Whether it's foolhardy, stupid, and a mistake is left to be determined. But still, they're not sitting still. And so the PWHL is making moves that give us an opportunity to see how the game's different and how they're looking at the game differently. So I'm not that big an enemy on their rules being different than the National Hockey League.
Now, like I said, we'll have to see how all of this goes, but I'm certainly loving what they've done with the PWHL, at least for now.
And I love what the Raps are doing. 5th straight, buddy.
Dude, the Raptors have been a very pleasant surprise. After the way that they didn't go anywhere in previous years, the fact that they've now won 5 straight and they beat the 76ers 121-112 to put themselves into second in their division. Oh, chef's kiss. This is absolutely fantastic for them.
Yeah,
You
good
know,
for them.
I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, good for them. Let's talk about Major League Soccer.
So MLS is going to look a little bit different starting in the 2027 season. The Board of Governors voted Thursday to approve changes to the league's calendar and format. They're moving away from the spring to fall season calendar that's been in use since 1996 to a winter to spring schedule to align with Europe's top leagues. This regular season structure will change to a single table with 16 divisions, organized by region. Slight bit of a change to better align themselves with Europe, and that would make trades a little bit easier. That also making synchronizing for international tournaments a little bit easier as well.
Well, well, it'll be interesting. Yeah, so they're going to have this. They're creating what the National Hockey League has always said. They like the idea of continuous confrontation to build rivalries, right? So the fabrication of rivalries, and that's what they're doing. Let's talk about the Lions. They signed 3 Americans.
Yeah, they signed linebacker Jeremy Lewis, offensive lineman Tyron Hunt, and Brandon Yates. All ended the 2025 season on the practice roster. Lewis had an impressive training camp and showed a solid preseason. He dressed for 2 regular season contests and recorded 3 tackles. Hunt suited up in both 2025 preseason games before spending the balance of the season on the practice squad. And Yates joins the Lions as part of the NFL practice roster expansion in September before making his debut at left guard in a win over Calgary back in October.
5 extended for the Lions, staying with the Lions in the Canadian Football League.
Yep, they've extended global kicker Ross Bolger, national offensive lineman Alex Berwick, national long snapper Cam Ferran, national offensive lineman Connor Klassen, and national linebacker Chase Tatterin.
The Elks
have extended. I was looking at the Owls information there. Robbie Smith and Jordan Williams, they've extended. Okay. They've extended Jose Maltos Diaz, who had a very good performance during the Grey Cup. Unfortunately, he was about the only thing that was performing very well. But it is what it is. Glad to see that he got extended.
The Argos have brought back Ralph Hawley, a good player. The Elks.
Right. They've extended Robbie Smith and Jordan Williams. So that's national defensive lineman Robbie Smith and American defensive lineman Jordan Williams. Smith will be suiting up for his second season with the green and gold after injuries cut his 2025 campaign a little short. He's a 2-time Grey Cup champ and has been one of the best national pass rushers in the CFL for over half a decade now. Williams joined Edmonton midway through the 2025 season after 2 years with the Argos, where he was a Grey Cup champion in 2024. He played 14 games in 2024, split between the Argos and Elks, registering 13 defensive tackles and scoring a defensive touchdown. So,
let's talk about the OHL. We don't talk much about them, but a real horrendous attack on another player has ended up a suspension.
Yeah, Dragasika, unfortunately, slashed an Ottawa Generals player in the head using the heel of the stick during a game. There was obviously a bit of an outcry over that back on November 14th. He was assessed a match penalty for slashing with 2:11 remaining in the third period. The OHL Department of Player Safety reviewed it and decided that the deliberate use of a stick as a weapon to an opponent's head, followed by further contact on a defenseless player, is dangerous and unacceptable. As a result, he has been suspended, I believe, for the remainder of the season and has to appear before a reinstatement panel before being eligible to apply for reinstatement for the 2026-2027 season. This is one of the biggest penalties I think that the OHL has imposed for stuff like that on ice. I personally, having watched the incident, think it was 100% justified. That's not the sort of thing you ever want to do.
This was, there's anger that's in one's head that could lead to something like that, but giving into that anger is not a good sign.
Yeah.
And he needs some help because That's the kind of anger that we don't need in sport, and that's what we're talking about here. Sport. This, we can joke about it being a blood sport. We can make comments about how how these guys play really hard and really tough, and it's not safe out there sometimes. We can talk about that, but we all know there has to be a line, and the CHL, the OHL has said this is the line, and we're not lifting the line. You got to come to the line now and have a conversation with us. We need to hear something that says we're going to give you another chance. In other words, it isn't a predetermined situation. The beginning of next year, he's not necessarily coming back to play. There's going to be considerations in
if he can't demonstrate through their league mandated education, counseling, and community service program that he's progressed enough to deserve a spot in the OHL again, then they'll deny him that.
And that's fair.
Yep.
That's very fair. I agree with you. Let's talk about Ovechkin. My goodness, the old Russian can still score, can't he?
He was at 904 at the start of the night. By the end of it, he was at 907. He had a hat trick as the Capitals beat Montreal 8-4. This is the Canadiens' fifth straight loss. It looks like they're just slowly but surely making their way down the standings. At one point they were actually first in the division. As it currently stands, they are now actually out of a wild card spot, 2 points ahead of the Leafs. They've now dropped to seventh in the conference, and they're now sixth in the division, just ahead of the Leafs. So, big game coming up between Toronto and Montreal on Saturday. Look to see if the Leafs can't tie with them, or if Montreal manages to give themselves a little extra breathing space and get themselves back up towards the top of the division.
Aaron, can we muster a little sympathy for Montreal fans at all? Can we?
No, not in the slightest.
No, we
they don't get anything from me.
Just checking. Just curious. Well, let's talk about the Senators.
So Drake Batherson had a tie-breaking goal with 1:58 to play. Anaheim was definitely trying to make sure that they came back. They pulled their goalie in the final minutes, but that was the winning goal. Batherson was camped in front when he deflected a blue line shot from Jake Sanderson past Peter Mrazek, ex-Maple Leaf legend, to snap the Ducks' 6-game home winning streak. Nick Cousins and Shane Pinto also scored for Ottawa, and Linus Ullmark stopped 24 shots.
Let's go to the Jets. Somebody feels like a kid again. Who could possibly feel like a kid again on the Winnipeg Jets? Let's think old.
Well, when he stepped onto the ice for the first time this season, he hadn't played a game in almost 2.5 years. He actually went to India for 2 1-month stretches back in 2023 and 2024. He was undergoing a detoxification program designed to help him recover from chronic respiratory problems.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where he wasn't able to get the treatment that he needed here in North America, so he went overseas to get it done, and it seems to have worked. He's got his energy back, he's got his zip back, and it's absolutely fantastic for him and fantastic for the Jets and horrifying for the rest of the league.
And a brand new Nehru jacket. No, just kidding. That was a joke. That was silly. That was stupid. Let's go with the Jets Inc. 5-year, $25 million extension for their captain, Lowry.
Yeah, he's agreed to a new 5-year term. He'd been on track to hit unrestricted free agency this summer when his existing 5-year, $16.25 million deal expired. Now he's coming off a career best season with 16 goals and 18 assists for 34 points in 73 games. He missed the start of the season due to off-season hip surgery. So far, he's recorded 1 goal and 2 assists in 7 games, which means that he's certainly not necessarily back on track, but he's certainly well on his way to getting there. So, Lowry's name came up a lot when it came to assembling the Team Canada lineup, but, it's one of those things where he needed to get a certain amount of help. So I'm glad that he got that done in the offseason.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Flames. Morgan Frost.
Yeah, so Morgan Frost put Jonathan Huberdeau's cross-crease pass past Colton Ellis to break a tie at 2:02 of the third. And from there, it just was all downhill for the Buffalo Sabres as Calgary beat them 6-2 on Wednesday. Devin Cooley made 28 saves for his first NHL win since April 2024 with San Jose. That was to help Calgary rebound from a 5-2 loss to Chicago on Tuesday. The Flames are now 6-13-3, but they are still behind Buffalo, who are just behind the Maple Leafs.
How about those knuckleheads?
Oh, I tell you, they've been having a bit of a tough go of it. I'll be honest with you. The Stars managed to beat the Canucks 4-2 for their 6th win in 7 games. Lankinen made 20 saves in the losing effort. Blackwell gave Dallas the lead midway through the 3rd period, and then Rantanen put it away with $1:31 left. The issue that we're having here is, much like the Leafs, the Vancouver Canucks have a plethora of injuries, and it's just not helping.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, in conclusion, go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go.
And that's a wrap. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate this moment you spent with us where I personally kneecapped the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I meant it in a nice way.
You did it with love.
Well, yeah, and frustration. And frustration. Have a great one, everybody.